Hello, all you lovely walking inhabitants of this great green earth. Welcome back to League Unlock. My name is Eric, and if you're a fan of North America, then anytime an international competition rolls around, you're scared. You're shaking in your boots because every year it seems like there's a little bit of hope or anticipation that maybe North America will perform well, and then it usually ends up not being the case unless it's Cloud9 at Worlds. That's the one specific scenario where you can actually be somewhat excited. But the Mid-Season Invitational has not been kind to North America ever since CLG went on their run in 2016. Every other event other than that one has ended in a group stage exit, no knockout round for North America. And in 2019, we get the extra added pressure, nervousness, whatever you want to call it, about having to go through that play-in stage against the Phong Vu Buffalo, because that is who Liquid will be matching up against in a best-of-5 series. And if you think back to 2017 when TSM went against the Marines, people were not scared about that one, and then it ended up being a 2-0 lead for the Marines, and TSM had to reverse sweep their way to get into the main draw, and then they ended up losing to the Marines again in that group stage. So Vietnam versus North America, there's a lot of history that we've got to go through here, and with the Buffalo winning out of Group A as most people expected, they're going against Liquid, and obviously the first matchup that people are going to look for and are going to be worried about is in that top lane. And before the group stage even happened, people were worried about Zeros versus Impact. We even rated Zeros higher than Impact when we did our pre-MSI position rankings. I believe we had him at 4 and Impact at 5. But after this group stage, I feel like I'm a little bit less worried, and you're not really just looking at Zeros versus Impact. You're looking at the entire top half of the map for Phong Vu versus Liquid. So we're talking Zeros and Meliodas versus Impact and Xmithie. Even though neither top laner really gets that much attention, I think Xmithie is a smart enough jungler that when he sees how insanely aggressive Zeros plays at pretty much all times, regardless of how far ahead or behind he is in any given matchup, he's going balls to the wall. It's kind of like the old Huni that we used to see, where he's going to dominate the laning phase and he's going to try and kill you over and over. So I really think that this is something that Xmithie and Impact both can definitely exploit and really get that matchup to sway in their favor. And it's something they can take advantage of. And if that's not the case, maybe Xmithie doesn't still give that much attention to that top lane, then you're still talking about that 1v1 matchup. And even in that scenario, I think there were just so many mistakes that we saw out of Zeros, even just mechanically. Yeah, he had some great outplays, but in a 1v1 against Impact specifically, I feel like that's basically one matchup where Impact is happy to have someone so aggressive like that, where he can just play more safe matchups, some safe champions, especially when there's a good chance that tanks are going to be stronger than we saw at the end of the regular season. Even though Impact looked good on carries throughout his playoff run, specifically against FlyQuest, I think Broken Blade definitely outshined him in that finals matchup. But I feel like there's going to be some picks that Impact can play where it's just impossible for Zeros to get any of these solo kills. And if he's not just attracting an incredible amount of pressure, getting himself ahead by himself, just singularly through the laning phase, then Phong Vu are going to be in a little bit more trouble than people are expecting. I don't think that Zeros is a huge advantage that the Phong Vu Buffalo are going to run through Liquid, and it's going to be a huge win condition for them, a huge liability for the top seed from North America. I think Impact will hold his own in this matchup, and if he needs Xmithie, if Xmithie sees the opportunity to punish an overextending Zeros, then he'll definitely take it. I feel like he could run red buff right up the top lane a couple games in a row before Zeros finally learns his lesson. Obviously, the rest of the lanes, it's going to be a big advantage for Liquid. Mid lane and bot lane, obviously Doublelift versus Big Koro, Jensen versus Null. That's a huge advantage for Liquid. So the main way the Buffalo are going to win is obviously their play style. You look at what they did in that tiebreaker matchup against Fenerbahce, and even in most of their wins, the entire meta for Group A in the play-in stage was just a full-fledged embodiment of the chaos that is the Vietnam region, and we've seen it with the Marines before. That's exactly how Phong Vu like to play as well, and yeah, they might have better macro than maybe the Marines entirely just running around the map trying to kill everybody. But that's still when Phong Vu are at their best, is just crazy back and forth team fights. And obviously that's not exactly how Liquid play, but if they're going to win some games off of Liquid, it's definitely got to be giving them the unexpected, because if they just play a slow standard game, 100% Liquid will take this series in pretty convincing fashion. So they need to throw in some spice, a little bit of chaos, and just really the main thing is, even if it's not necessarily a favorable team fight, just go for it. It might throw Liquid for a loop. We've heard all the players on Team Liquid kind of talk about they don't take huge risks unless there's going to be a big reward there. They only take these favorable fights for the most part, and that's why we've seen a lot more slow-paced games out of them than maybe some of the other teams, even in North America. So if Phong Vu are just taking fights left, right, and center the entire game, maybe that'll be something to kind of throw Liquid off of their game and what they're comfortable with. But this team, I mean, they have played so much. They have so much international and domestic experience. I don't think they're going to get thrown off by some crazy play style. They're going to adapt. Maybe Phong Vu take that first game, but I think Liquid are going to adapt, because you look at them throughout 2019, and I know that people kind of talked about their slump towards the end of the regular season, and we did as well, but you heard the team talk about it. When there's not really any stakes in the games, it's hard to be completely fired up and expired about it. But it was a very different playoff run for them, obviously. We're accustomed to their first two championships. They just completely dominated their entire playoff run, but they had to pull off the old reverse sweep against TSM. And I mean, overall, Liquid still looked very dominant. They looked like the best team in North America, although TSM did have that crazy streak to close it out. There were at times TSM did look better, but I mean, Liquid are just so consistent. They're almost the complete opposite of the Buffalo. And in a best of 5, I feel like consistency is going to be key, unless PVB plays absolutely out of their minds for multiple games, 5 games in a row. It's just, I'm hard pressed to see Team Liquid dropping this series. They're just, I mean, they have so much experience internationally, and that was one of the main issues with them at last year's MSI. Obviously, you had the whole Ole subbing himself out of the roster for that one. Not going to be an issue here in this midseason invitational with Core JJ, with Jensen in there. I just feel like head-to-head, all these matchups go the way of Liquid, except maybe the top lane, but even then, it's at most a slight advantage for PVB. I think the play style, Liquid, as long as they can withstand the onslaught of PVB and a lot of these team fights going around, I just can't see Liquid really having any issue here. I could maybe give PVB giving one game. They take that first game just by taking Liquid by surprise. Oh, this is how aggressive these guys want to play. Okay, we'll adapt to that. I think at worst you're looking at Team Liquid winning this one 3-1. But then again, people probably expected the same thing with the Marines against TSM. I don't think anyone really expected Team Solo Mid to struggle so mightily against them, but I think this Team Liquid has much less issues than what we saw out of that TSM roster, and they've already kind of faced a bit of adversity in North America, so I don't think that TSM spring team really had that much adversity. They've already had that slump. They already came back from a reverse sweep against TSM in the finals, so they've pretty much seen most of it already in one split. Team Liquid, I would be shocked if they lose this series. I'm feeling a 3-1 for North America to get in to the group stage of MSI 2019, where there they can maybe disappoint again and not get to the knockout rounds, but they'll at least get to the main group draw.